Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to be with you this Sunday morning, and what a great warm-up act and a main act from Angie. None of you can fall asleep now because she got you all involved. During the first two installments of this message, we discussed the importance of altruism in our world. And I think it's pretty easy to see that altruism is something we need more of today. We especially see that after some of the events of the past week, and something that we see occurring more and more in our world today. But we can be instruments of change. We can be instruments for good in the world in which we live. And we can affect the sphere of the world that we are a part of. After learning what altruism is, we discussed the role of empathy and love in being altruistic. In addition, compassion, joy, and impartiality were identified as key components of what makes up altruism. In this week's concluding message about altruism, we will consider the role of meditation in helping to develop altruism in our life. Every week, we have a meditation as part of our service. Some of you probably have a regular meditation practice in your own life, and it's something that I would strongly recommend. Today, we're actually going to take a look at how meditation can make us be more altruistic. We're also going to take a look at some of the health and psychological benefits that come from meditation as well. Did you know that meditation can actually change your brains? And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And finally, science has really caught up with New Thought and Unity, because we've recognized that for a long time. And we will talk about that in a little bit of details today, because meditation can create new pathways in our brain that'll make us more altruistic and effective in our relationships with others. This is going to result in a drastic improvement in the quality of our lives. It'll help us to become more loving and compassionate. And isn't that something that we all strive for? That's why we come here on Sundays, for connection with others. And we will talk a little bit about that, and how we'll improve our social connections with others. For a long time, Unity and New Thought, as I said, has been ahead of the curve. So what I'm saying is something that you've probably known for quite some time. But the world is finally beginning to discover what we have known for quite some time. And we actually are becoming more in the mainstream. Who would have said that just 30, 40, 50 years ago? A lot of people would not have said that. There was a seeming disconnect between science and spiritual practice, and now those two are coming together, merging into one. The consistency of both scientific principle and spiritual principle are becoming ever more evident. And this is something that we can be proud of, that have been in the forefront of that movement. And a lot of our message this morning is going to be centered around the value of meditation. Meditation is not just an academic exercise. The spiritual traditions of Unity and New Thought support the idea of creating a world that works for everyone. So when we become more loving and compassionate in our life, we are helping to create the foundations for a better world. Everyone can benefit from being more altruistic. And this is consistent with creating a better world. As we dive into our material this morning, we'll explore the scientific evidence that supports that meditation can change our brains. Most important, it'll help us to be more loving and compassionate in the world in which we live. So let's get into it. How does meditation change our brains. Meditation is a practice that can have a profound positive influence on our mental, physical, and emotional health. So it's something we want to look at. And I'll be honest, it's quite easy to pass it off in the morning. We're busy, something comes up, or we try meditation and we fall asleep. That's probably happened to a number of us over the years, and that is okay, because we are still recognizing its importance. A number of different meditation styles exist, and we're not going to talk about all of these in details, but these include focused attention, altruistic love and compassion, open presence, visualization of mental images, fearlessness, and devotion. Who would have thought that there are different meditation styles that actually touch upon these variables that which we just talked about? In one research study, the first 3 styles were studied. The study looked at a meditator when they were in a restful state and compared the brain activity during meditation. And some of us have probably read some books on meditation. And there's been studies from the Harvard Medical School and plenty of other places that show the value of that. But how does it work in our own life? I come from an academic background, so that stuff interests me. But most of you here aren't interested in what the studies show. You're interested in how can I make my life a better life? And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. In this study, 6 emotionals, some of these styles were looked at. And the first 3 styles in particular were looked at, especially that dealing with altruistic love and compassion. And some of these styles contributed to resilience or the ability to recover from adversity. How many of us have ever gone through adversity? Probably every hand would go up in this room if I asked that question. How long can you maintain a positive emotion? When we are meditating, we are more than likely able to be more positive and to maintain that feeling of positivity more for a longer period of time. How adept we are at picking up social signals from other people. I know a lot of us here are probably very intuitive. That's quite usual in a unity congregation and those that visit a unity church. And we become even more so when we engage in meditation. Self-awareness of our own feelings. We are aware of how we feel at any given moment. And that's something probably in the last 30, 40 years that has gained a lot of attention. And how will we regulate our emotional responses to others? And how clear our attention is. A major finding of this study was that attention or concentration was improved. Some of us probably at times feel like we can't be focused on anything. And I'll be quite honest. Sometimes I've been told, you look at your cell phone too much at those email messages or texts that you're receiving. And today, that probably becomes more and more of an issue because we are so connected. Within seconds, we know what's going on in some of our friends' lives, our families' lives, or even possibly in some other part of the world. We know that. There's an advantage to that, but there's also a disadvantage to it as well, too. That's why I'm a big believer that when you take flight somewhere, keep your cell phones off. That's the last thing we need, people checking their text messages and that type of thing. This is undoubtedly the result of the changes that occur in our brains when we are able to meditate, and then that allows us to be more focused and to give more attention to whatever we are particularly looking at. By meditating 30 minutes a day, a person can see magnificent and significant changes in their cerebral activity, the immune system, and the quality of one's attention. So it not only affects our brains, it actually improves our immune system. So there are physical benefits from engaging in the practice of meditation. Meditation changes the mind from being unstable to being clear. And it also helps us to manage our emotions as well, too. It's not uncommon, and we see this a lot of times when we're in traffic, where people can't control their emotions. A couple of weeks ago, after delivering the Sunday message, I was going home in kind of a driving rain. So I was driving much slower than I normally would drive. And guess what? The guy behind me is blinking his lights for me to go faster. Even though there's a driving rain and you barely can see in front of you. That is typical today of people wanting it now. We need to slow down. We need to be able to have some self-control where it comes to instant gratification. And that's something that we need to look at. When we meditate, we also are going to experience more inner peace. And that comes from being able to manage our inner emotions. It should be no surprise that the Bible has this to say about anger. I'm going to read to you from Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 29. He who is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. Think about it. When we become angry.
Can you say that again? Can you say that again?
The Bible verse?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm sorry.
So I'm going to just reread Proverbs 14:29. He who is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. So what does that mean? That if we control our temper, we have an opportunity to reflect on what happened. And it's usually foolish behavior we engage in. How many of us have put our foot in our mouth at one time or another? Probably. If I asked for a poll here, which I'm not going to, probably all our hands would probably go up. We've done that. And that sometimes comes from the strong emotions and not being able to regulate those emotions. Learning to focus in meditation comes from being able to put one's intention on the breath. So you wonder where some of this self-regulation comes from? Think about it. And probably there's many different meditation styles here too, especially when we do so on a Sunday morning. Some of you may be real experienced at it, and some of you may still be rookies, and it's okay. But focusing on our breath, focusing on what is being said, that is what is going to help. A person trained in meditation is better able to exercise attention. How often do you keep bringing yourself back to your breath? And sometimes it happens many times. How long does it take to stabilize our brain's ability to have more attention? 3 months of meditation training can provide this benefit. So if we meditate, we will have better attention within 3 months after we start a regular meditation practice. Studies on meditation have other benefits as well. We're going to talk about a few of those. For example, a meditator can remember more easily a sequence of words that flash before them. So a lot of times on TV, you have these subliminal commercials with words that flash on the screen. Well, if you're a meditator, you will probably remember more of those words than if you don't. So that tells you your focus and your attention is better than the average person who may remember one word or maybe 2 words of what flashed on the screen. The memory or attention of the brain provides this benefit. It is because the meditator has developed the skill to be fully aware of the present moment. And I've spoken a little bit about it, and we've had other speakers that have come in that have talked about mindfulness. We develop mindfulness from the meditation practice. The meditator is open and receptive to whatever comes their way. And as I said, it's the practice of mindfulness and the practice of meditation is what helps make this possible. The next area we're going to talk about is altruistic love, compassion, and the brain. There's a very simple way to increase our love and compassion for others. It starts with thinking about someone we are close to and have unconditional love for. Jesus a lot of times mentioned it in the Bible and in the gospel accounts where he talked about it's easy to love those we're close to. So you start there. So you start with that love there. Then this love is gradually extended to all beings. Our entire mind is filled with love. If we feel our love for others ebbing, we revive it. And we're able to do that. So we start where we are. And most of us have someone or a number of people that we feel strong love for in our lives. When we think of extending compassion, we call to mind someone that is suffering. We wish that person to be free of suffering. And some of this comes from Buddhist thought as well too. But a very similar method that is used to extend love to others can be used to extend compassion to others. How many of us felt compassion this week for what is going on down on our southern borders? Probably a lot of us. And as a result, there actually was some changes, some very minor changes, but some small changes that were made to some of those policies. Once again, holding this view is very consistent with what the Bible encourages us to do. The psalmist has this to say at Psalm 86 and verse 15. But, O Lord and God, how merciful and gracious are you, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. We have that within us too. We are of God. We are a part of God. So why shouldn't we be able to do the same thing? The more we manifest these qualities, the more we activate the areas of the brain that are known for altruistic love, empathy, positive emotions, and a sense of wholesomeness. Meditation helps us to keep these areas of the brain activated, so we keep the switch on by continuing to meditate on a regular basis. In a research study conducted by Barbara Fredrickson, 6 to 8 weeks of meditation on altruistic love, which was at 30 minutes a day, increases our positive emotions and our satisfaction with life. So we're more satisfied with our life if we meditate on a regular basis. One feels more joy, kindness, gratitude, hope, and enthusiasm about life. And that's what comes from taking some time to slow down and to focus and to put our attention on what's really important. Meditation on altruistic love also gives a boost to our immune system, as we mentioned before. We're still in the warm summer season, so some of those things that in the fall and winter we want to avoid aren't here yet. But if we start working on that now, then we'll be ready. We'll be giving ourselves a meditation shot rather than a flu shot, something that'll help to improve our immune system. It diminishes the body's inflammatory response as well. So we can see the health benefits that come from meditation. As we have mentioned, meditation increases positive moods and it also reduces negative moods as well. There's no reason why we shouldn't meditate. Let's talk about some other benefits of altruism as we begin to move toward the conclusion of our series on altruistic behavior. Studies on altruistic behavior have other implications. There's a connection between acting altruistically and having control over one's emotions. So, when somebody is impatient on the road because they want you to go 10 miles an hour faster, even though you're already maybe 5 miles over the speed limit, we might not have that tendency as much anymore. Or if we're impatient with somebody in our life, we may develop a little bit more self-control so that we can slow things down. A more serene and peaceful mind lets us consider the pain and suffering of others more altruistically. It has been shown that meditation on compassion actually helps us to have a better memory. How many of you have a less effective memory than you did 40 or 50 years ago. I can raise my hand on that one as well too. Sometimes I don't even remember the names of somebody from 50 years ago. But having a better memory is a benefit of meditating. A meditation practice based on altruistic love also can improve our social connections. And don't we all want to have better relationships? It helps increase our sense of belonging. And this includes trusting others as well, too. Trust, many times, is the cement of a good relationship. In a study by psychologist Sendri Hutcherson, it was shown that a single 7-minute meditation increased feelings of belonging to the community, social connectedness, and kindly attitudes toward strangers. So we feel better even though we feel connected to people that we don't know. In another study, it was shown that 6 weeks of meditation on altruistic love reduced discrimination among people of color and the homeless. Don't we need less discrimination today in our world? Meditation can reduce the amount of physical pain that we feel in our lives. It also enables us to endure more pain. There's probably some of you that are good at experiencing pain, and there's probably of you that may feel like crying like a baby when that shot is being stuck up your arm. Meditation on altruism and compassion can slow the aging of the cell as well. It slows us down. As we have been discussing, altruism has a lot of physical and emotional benefits. Altruistic love is the answer to many of the problems in our world. This reminds us of what the Bible says in Galatians 5:22 and 23. There, the verses say, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law." In the Bible, this is often referred to as the fruits of the Spirit. Meditation helps us to cultivate those fruits of the Spirit. Often referred to as the fruits of the Spirit, love has many manifestations. And many of these manifestations can occur as a result of us developing a regular meditation practice. And of course, it helps us to develop and to create a better world for all. But we are part of that equation. For a long time, there was a seeming separation between science and spirituality, as I mentioned near the beginning of the message. In reality, there is a connection between them. And we can be glad that we were at the forefront of knowing that for many years in the New Thought movement. Love is indeed the glue that keeps us one in both our humanity and, most importantly, in the divinity that we all share. As we conclude this series on altruism, let us reflect on how we can cultivate a meditation practice that strengthens the love that we show in our world. It will not only benefit those we love, but all of humanity. Indeed, we will benefit ourselves as we create a world that works for everyone. Namaste.
Peacefully
take this time and take a deep, relaxing breath, exhaling away any concerns of the day that you might have, placing your body in a comfortable position, your feet firmly grounded on the floor in front of you. And if you so choose, you may want to gently close your eyes. The gentle presence of Spirit guides and directs me. Even in times of turmoil, I may ask myself, what am I going to do? Or why did I make that decision? I could either wrestle with these questions and become bogged down in worry and blame, or I can turn within the Spirit to guide me. In these quiet moments of meditation, I open my heart and mind to receiving direction from Spirit within. As I relax in silent contemplation, I am receptive to the subtle suggestions of divine wisdom. When I listen with an open heart, even something as simple as an overheard remark or a line from a song on the radio may provide me with answers. The gentle presence of Spirit guides and directs me. I know what to do, and I proceed with confidence. Answers come to me in the silence. I quench my thirst for understanding by drinking from the fountain of knowledge within me. I tap into this wellspring during times of reflection as I wait in stillness. Attuned to divine wisdom, I move beyond intellectual or ego-driven solutions. I release any self-judgment about how much or how little I should know. Instead, I affirm the truth. I am wise and knowledgeable. I know what I need to know. In the clarity of the silence, any muddy thoughts blocking my guidance are cleared. An inner knowing emerges that is more sure and more sound than any false belief. Confident and clear about what is mine to do, I act on the guidance I receive and proceed with divine understanding. Now we will enter into 2 minutes of silence as we reflect and tap into the inner wisdom that exists within each and every one.